There we go. All right. Cool. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Waiting for live video. Come on. I didn't just screw that up, did I? I did. Hold on 1 second, y'all.
I got this fan rolling in here. Is that okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
You still hear you fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the work that Talbert House is doing, by the way, too, man. So, salute to you all, man.
We try to do our best. It's rough for a lot of families right now. So
big time.
We got to have outlets. We all need it. And, hopefully we can do that for some families.
Right.
And it's good for our own mental health, to be able to help each other. So
Right. Certainly. And I don't know if you got a chance to check out our website, man, but we've had some pretty influential people on our discussion, man. It's actually one of the things that I'm very proud of. I'm sure JeRod will say the same. To be able to have some of the people that we have, man, and to be able to have those relationships, you know what I mean? Because to get to talk to two African American brothers about things really affecting the community, a lot of people have sports stuff,
Right.
We like, nah, we want to talk about stuff with a little more substance, man,
Absolutely. We got to do that. We got to do that. We keep informing our community, man. It's just right now it's just a tough time, for families for a variety of reasons. You think about equity and equality. You think about you think about income disparity. You think about people not seeing their kids. Think about kids not being able to really have a social life because of the virtual learning platforms. We need each other more now than ever, which means everybody got to do their part to be healthy on their end, so they can pour something to other people's cups. So it's real out here right now.
It is. So I'm about to hit this live now. Okay, so if I want to setting up your meeting for FB Live. So you might see something on your screen now that says meeting is streaming live on Facebook. So we are rocking and rolling. All right. First off, I want to welcome everyone to the discussion. We're a minute early, but that's always good. Welcome everyone to the discussion. This is episode 18, where today we're going to be talking about the Fatherhood Project with our great friend, Harold Howard. How we doing, Harold?
But doing well, my brother. Thanks for having me.
Good. But before we introduce you, of course, I got to shout out my guy, JeRod Lindsay. How we doing there, brother?
Hey, what's going on, everyone?
Good. So, Mr. Howard, we typically have the guests give their own introduction because we don't want to shortchange you in any kind of way. So please, Harold, tell us a little or a lot about yourself, man. We would love to hear it.
It's not a lot about me. Just a humble servant out here. So my full-time job, I work here at Talbert House. Been at Talbert House for about 12 years. Current vice president of the community care service line here at Talbert House. In addition to working here at Talbert, I still work at Millville Community Center on a part-time basis. It's an opportunity for me to stay connected to my community, but more importantly, just show kids different things. And so that's something I'm incredibly proud of. Father of 3 girls, married. Family is important to me. And just want to be part of the solution in my community. So that's all I got, my brother.
There you go. Well, you say you're the vice president of community care. So what does community care consist of at Talbert House?
Yeah.
I know it ain't one thing. Well, one of them is that we're gonna talk about the Fatherhood Project, but definitely want you to share some of the other parts of the community care continuum at Talbert House.
Yeah, no doubt. So just a little bit about Talbert House in general. We have 5 service lines. We serve about 24,000 clients face-to-face each and every day. We serve about an additional 80,000 clients through prevention-related services. And so our service lines consist of our behavioral health service line. We also have a community corrections service line, where we do halfway houses and jail-based programs. We have a housing service line that's about 7 years old. And then we have an addiction service line. So our addiction service line is about 2.5 years old. It's, honestly, it's kind of the response to the opioid crisis, and then having a casino downtown. A lot of time, oftentimes people forget that can be an addiction as well. And so then then that leaves community care. So community care is made up of a number of programs. We have workforce programs, so employment related services. We have a victim service program, so working with crime victims. We provide community outreach, prevention, education. Fairly large contract we have with the Mental Health Board to provide prevention services throughout Hamilton County. We also have COCA. COCA stands for Council on Child Abuse. Okay. So working within the schools around child abuse and bullying. We have 281 Care. So 281 Care is our crises and suicide prevention hotline. And if I get an opportunity to talk a little bit about care later, because it's something, an avenue and an outlet that I really think that, our community can utilize a little bit more. So 281 Care takes about 17,000 calls a year, and just really help link people to services, but also, it's a mechanism for people to, talk about what's going on in their life. It's an opportunity to deal with your crisis, deal with your own mental health, your own trauma. And so it's a really good resource for our community that, I can't promote enough. And then that leads to Fatherhood Project, which we're going to spend the majority of the day talking about.
Brother Lindsay, take it away.
Man, sheesh, right? Sheesh.
I know, I told you. He's talking about, I'm just Harold, shoot.
Right. Nah. And one thing he neglected to mention, and correct me if I'm wrong, Harold, you are on the board of Elements as well, right?
That's right. That's right. I love Elements. And for me, why Elements is important is because, we have our traditional forms of mental health services, but oftentimes in our community, you have the stigma that comes with mental health. And, what we have to understand is there's many front doors that we can enter that can really access a wide variety of services out in the community. And, when I think about young people and I think about art and I think about expressing themselves and expressing their passion and their art, if we can get them in the door, now we have an opportunity to really understand the dynamic of that individual. And it could include, what's the career path for that individual? It could include, what's not happening for that individual, what's some of the roadblocks, what's some of the barriers. But again, once we have them in that door, those are the things that we can explore to really work and help them become the best person they can be, for their family. So.
And if really quickly, in case someone, I'm sorry, JeRod, can you just tell a little bit about what Elements is? Because there might be some people who might have not heard of Elements.
Elements is it's located down on Green and Race. And so it's art expression. So, that's done through, hip hop, spoken word. It's done through dance. They're also offering some classes through, and I don't want to forget Creative Futures, with, really help people who may be interested in like graphic design and things of that nature. So they offer that Creative Futures in some of the public schools. We're trying to expand that now. But again, it's just another mechanism for, our young folks to express who they are. And I like to say, it really gives them the opportunity and the venue to be who they are, because that's important too, especially when we're talking about males. I mean, oftentimes, we have to put up this facade about, I have to be tough, I have to be that. We play a whole lot of roles, and where we get lost is, being authentic about who we truly are as an individual.
Right.
I think that's the perfect segue, right? As we talk about males and how we have to portray this persona or with masculinity. Why don't we start by talking about the Fatherhood Project? Why don't you tell us, one, what sparked it, and two, what's it about?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Fatherhood Project is a 22-year-old program. It started in an organization at the time called SUMA, and SUMA stood for Services United for Mothers and Adolescents. And so SUMA's niche in the community was working with teen moms. Mm-hmm. So around 1998, SUMA was approached by the O'Neill Foundation out of Cleveland, Ohio, about adding fatherhood programming to the Teen Moms program. And so they were lucky enough to get a $2.5 million grant for 10 years, or donation. And it's key that I say donation and not grant, because with donations, you typically have the freedom to make changes and to your program based off of, the population and things of that nature. where grants you're a little bit more pigeonholed on, you know, what you can and you can't do.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'll tell you why that was important is because what we quickly learned back then is that, you know, teen fathers have other things that's important to them rather than being in a fatherhood program, which is okay. You know, our motto is, you know, we're ready when you're ready. And so what we did is we made some adaptations, some changes, modified kind of our, you know, our program to the community. And, you know, really we opened it up to serve any and all fathers. And so, and we do that today, meaning, you know, we pretty much will serve any father that, you know, based off of whatever barriers they have. Now, with that being said, we prefer fathers who have children under 18 because those needs are typically tailored towards their children. When the kids are over 18, it's more individual needs that that father may need. And so, you know, what we do is our front door, well, let me back up. So back then, we probably were serving about 50 fathers. You fast forward to last fiscal year, we served 574 fathers.
Wow.
And so typically, when you tell people that out in the community, first thing they say is, "Oh, wow, you know, who's making them come?" And then I smile and I say, "Well, nobody. They just want to be good dads. Nobody's telling them to come. You know, they have barriers just like me and you and anybody else listening in on this call. And so, and sometimes those barriers can hinder their ability to be the best father or the father that their child or children need. And so, you know, what we try to do is eliminate those barriers that's preventing them from being the father that they want to be to their child or children. What I will tell you is that typically the front door for a lot of the men that we serve is access and visitation and then child support. And so what we do is, you know, we bring them in, we, you know, we address those needs right away. But while we're addressing that immediate need that they identify, we're also assessing them to see what other needs they may have, i.e. they may have housing needs. They may have, you know, drug and alcohol treatment needs. They may have mental health needs. You know, they may need some co-parenting. I mean, as you know, I mean, our lives are complex and it doesn't change whether you call yourself healthy or you call yourself unhealthy. Right. We all live complex lives. And so, you know, what we want to do is help them untangle those complexities, get those needs met so that they can be the best father that they can be to their child or children. Within that, over the years, you know, there are some key components that we think are essential to having a really high quality fatherhood program. Everything for us starts with case management. All right. So we have to have a case manager that can eliminate barriers as they are identified, you know, with the fathers that we're working with. We then have employment services. So when you think about child support, or you think about a father who wants to go get custody of his kid or something like that, you have to have employment, right? And if it's child support, it's not about getting somebody a job. We got to get you a livable wage job so you can pay the child support and still support whatever else you have going on in your life. If it's, we also offer co-parenting services. So, you know, we're not only just interested in really, you know, working with the father. What we know is that if we can help a father get his needs met, we can help a mom get her needs met, they can better complement each other as co-parenting partners. There's a lot of wounds that take place in some of these co-parenting situations. And so, you know, we need to work through that so we can help parents understand the effectiveness and why it's critical to have healthy communication and, you know, healthy relationships. They don't have to be romantic relationships, but you're modeling for your child or children. They need to see you all acting in a healthy manner. They don't deserve anything less than that, right? And so, you know, those are some of the key components. And then obviously we have parenting classes. And, you know, what I'll tell you about the parenting classes is that, you know, the richness in the parenting classes is not, you know, the Nurturing Fathers curriculum that we use. It's the dynamics of, or the makeup of the individuals in the class. Right. You know, you have folks that are quote unquote in the household with their kids. They work more than 40 hours a week. And so there's a disconnect because they're not in the house. And so, you know, their child or children not seeing them every day. Okay. Then you have, you know, the father who could have had, you know, addiction issue and been disconnected. Could have had a father that didn't have a father in his life and really, you know, struggled on the front end, understanding the value, matured a little bit. And now he knows he has to, you know, mend some wounds. And so,
and unfortunately, I'm sorry, Harold, but unfortunately, you know, that's a lot of us. You know, there's many of you know, my friends growing up that didn't have their fathers in their house, including myself. So, you know, I definitely feel that. I'm sorry, but just wanted to add that in there.
No doubt. So that's what we kind of do. We work through all those complexities And we look at it as a journey, and we walk through that journey, walk through the forest. You know, whatever that journey takes them, we want to be there hand in hand to help show, you know, make sure when they come out on the other end that, you know, they're in a good place to be a nurturing father, you know, be a good friend, a good partner, whatever other roles they play out in the community. So that's kind of what we do on a day-to-day basis.
So it sounds like, one, we commend you for serving over 500 fathers, man. That's huge, right? That's huge. But it sounds like you all are almost a one-stop shop, right, for a father. And it sounds, one last thing, it sounds like the Fatherhood Project is it year round? It sounds like it's beyond a project. So is it year round?
Yeah, good question. So let's start with the one-stop shop. I'm always careful with the one-stop shop because, and no, that's not at you. I'm just, my thing is, you know, one thing we struggle with in our community, and it's something that drives me crazy is we're not quick to collaborate. And so I'm always careful about the one-stop shop because, you know, we have to collaborate. You know, lives are at stake, and, you know, nobody don't have time to be sitting here trying to, you know, say that Talbert House does it all or this place does it all. You know, damn that, you know, we need to come together and make sure our community is healthy. So, you know, we do provide a lot, but, you know, we don't have a problem going outside of our Talbert House walls to make sure that an individual get their needs met. As far as the how long a person is in the program, that's really driven by whatever the assessment says. So, you know, if a person comes in and let's say that, you know, their issue is they're working 60 hours a week. You know, they may only just need the parenting class, which is 10 weeks, and then they're done after the parenting class. Then you may get somebody who, you know, comes in and they're, you know, in treatment. And so, you know, and they haven't seen their kid in 6 months. So that may take a little longer because now we need to file for visitation, right? We need to get them through the parenting classes. You know, once they get out of treatment, they may not have no place to stay. They may have alienated all their relationships because of their addiction issues. So now we got to try to figure out a housing for them. So, you know, they may be in the program a little bit longer. So on average, I would say our fathers typically are in the program about 3 to 6 months.
Okay. Now, how long or not how long, I'm sorry. What's the cost of this, Harold?
Oh, another great question. There is no cost. The cost of showering you with love.
Amen.
So I mean, we're lucky. We have some funding streams. You know, we get money from Ohio is the only state in the United States that has a commission by statute, a state commission. And so we get money from the Ohio Fatherhood Commission.
Nice.
You know, we also, you know, we in the past have gotten money from Hamilton County Jobs and Family Services. So go figure. We're working with men. Men have the stigma about going down to Jobs and Family Services. They're getting us money to help them get the men to them, right? So, you know, we've also, you know, been a part of federal grants. We also, we get donations. So, I mean, we have different funding streams that come through to help, you know, offset the cost. On
you all have a fundraiser too, correct?
That's right. That's right. So on average, it costs about $1,000 for a father to go through our program. But, you know, again, that's in kind. I mean, that's not coming out of their pocket. All of these funding streams to help offset those costs. And so it's free to our community.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome to hear. Tell me about some of the challenges that you see with the fathers. Is there ever any resistance to some of the programs or the advice that you all are offering?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's always going to be a challenge because you know, like anything else, you have to build trust. And let me just back up a little bit. You know, it takes incredible fortitude for a man to say he needs help. You think about everybody, you know, listening in, everybody, you know, that's something that innately we just struggle with as men. We're not out here asking people for help every day. And I always tell folks, you know, we have a very small window to make a huge impact because, you know, there's some men, we understand there's some men that walk through our doors and they hope that we failed them simply because they can go back to the person that referred them and say, see, I told you that don't work. Well, we're not going to be that entity that fails them. So, you know, my thing is, you know, when you walk through those doors, if you're walking through those doors because you're $30,000 in arrear and child support, well, one of the things that we've done, because that has been an issue, is child support is located at our building. So now the individual doesn't have to go down to JFS, walk through the metal detectors, walk past the sheriff, just show up to 4531 Reading Road, and you can get good, accurate information about your situation. So
that's amazing, man.
When we step them up that way, what that does right away is build trust. So now you can start to put down some of those defense mechanisms that you may have, right? And so, what we try to do is we make sure we address that need that brought them through the door. But once we build that trust through the assessment, we say, hey, you say you want visitation. But if you're going to have visitation, we got to make sure you got adequate housing. You can't have visitation without no place for the child to have the visits, right? Or if I want custody, you can't get custody if you don't have employment, if you don't have housing. So, there's a trust that goes here. So this is what you want. Well, we kind of understand the blueprint a little bit. So we all got to get on the same page so that we can start dealing with this blueprint. And so, I would say that's always going to be an issue. But when you got people that's, passionate like the staff, typically we're able to knock down those barriers right away. I would say the other challenge is just the stigma, especially, and I'm going to be very, open and honest, the stigma about Black fathers. I can tell you that's not the narrative. The narrative that you hear is not the reality. Most men want to father well. They do. Absolutely. And our jobs, we're not here to judge anybody. To judge somebody means we have to walk their journey from the minute they came out the womb. All right. I ain't got time for that. Okay. So I'm not here to judge you. If you're willing to change, if you're willing to accept the help, then we're here to help you.
We appreciate that, man. We definitely appreciate that. I think I want to speak to the case management, right? You spoke about how that's how the case managers are the people who are actually hands-on with the fathers. Is that accurate? Now, you say yes? Okay. So do case managers ever get overloaded? Do they still reach out to you as a resource? How many people are they working with on a regular basis, like for each case manager, or does it vary?
And then to add on to that as well, I'm sorry, how big is your staff? Yes, as far as the Fatherhood Project is concerned?
Great question. Those are great questions. So we have 3 case managers. Mm-hmm. We have 1 employment service provider. Now, Talbert House has an employment unit. So I want to just be very clear. So this employment service provider reports to the employment unit. Why that is critical is because when you think about what I said, we have 5 service lines, we serve 24,000 people. So organically what happens is that employment service provider is tapped into other employment service providers throughout the agency. So when it comes to job leads, when it comes to job development, all those things are happening, not only for the Fatherhood Project guys, but everybody who comes through Talbert House. So we also have a paid attorney on staff. And so we hang our hats on that. Everybody that we enroll is entitled to a legal consultation. But let me be very clear, that consultation doesn't mean that he's going to represent you, okay? But part of our problem in our community is that there's too much inaccurate information out there. And I'll give you an example. The long-standing one throughout my career is, if I get shared parenting, I'll have to pay child support. Well, that's a lie. Whoever told you that, that's a lie. And
say it again. Say it again. You got to say it again.
Shared parenting, I'll have to pay child support. There's still, when you were never married to the mom, it's a juvenile case. And since you were never married, you have a custodial parent, you have a non-custodial parent, okay? The mom is always going to be the custodial parent at birth because we know that's her child. It came out her tummy, okay? And so there's things that we can do legally to assist you with that. But my point is, what happens often is sometimes these cases, like, Maurice, you my boy. And so Maurice told me this. So now my situation, I'm a more what Maurice told you into my situation. And then when next time I look up, I'm $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 in arrear in child support because I didn't handle it. And so, we want to make sure right away you got the resources, the information you need to best manage your situation, which means you have to have good information about your situation.
So are they coming down let me go back. With the co-parenting situation, right? I think that's super important. Can you hear me? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm listening.
Okay. Co-parenting situation. I think that's super important when raising a child. how difficult is it for you to get a couple, well, not a couple, but parents in the same room? Are they even in the same room? What's that experience like?
It's exhausting. So we've been doing co-parenting for about 4 years. And so just the historical piece about that is what we were finding out is that oftentimes when we get a father to whatever his success measurement is, okay, what we would see is that he would return to us 6 months or a year and a half down the line. And it was because of one root issue. There was a breakdown in the relationship with his parenting partner. So mom is gatekeeper. Now I can't see my kid, or, you know, child support, you know, has been modified. Now I'm paying more. So it's all these different dynamics. And so we needed to get in front of that. And so, you know, really what it comes down to is you're dealing with wounded individuals. All right. We've all been wounded in our lives. And what happens is sometimes we take those wounds into our relationships. So wounded individuals wounding each other. And now you got a chaotic situation. And then you got this innocent baby who's put in the middle of all this chaos. But what we know is if we can get these two parties together to kind of work towards cooperation and collaboration, they can then model those healthy relationships. As I said, our very first co-parenting session was bring both parents together. So, you know, mom arrived first, dad arrived second. Dad sat down, mom grabbed the water bottle and poured water all on his head. So my mouth dropped, but it was great. But listen, it was great. You know why? It was learning, because what the learning in all of that was that the wounds are so deep, you got to meet with them individually first, right? Mm-hmm. And we got to get them to understand their power and, you know, how to relinquish some of that power, to move away from, you know, power over to power to, meaning more cooperation and collaboration. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, now our motto is we meet with the individuals as much as needed before we bring them together collectively to have some sessions.
So with the staff of, with the staff of 3 case managers, like are the case managers the ones meeting, or who's meeting?
Well, your questions are dead on. You good?
Yeah, I know. Hey,
I failed to mention that we do have a contracted co-parenting coach.
Okay. Yes. Is it just one coach?
Yes. And because the volume is not high on coach. So let me go back. As much we tried very, very hard to get both parents in the room together. But we also underwent a research project on the best ways to engage moms into a fatherhood program. Because you got to think, the minute I call or a staff call and say, I'm Harold from the Fatherhood Project, her defense mechanisms are going to go up, because now it's them versus me. What are they trying to get out of me? And so, you know, obviously, as you can expect, what the research said is that, you know, you need to have a independent party, preferably a female call, you know, just to ease some of the tension. But it's still incredibly hard because the wounds are so deep. So if we can't get both parties together, we still have co-parenting sessions with the father, because, you know, the father, even if mom is not ready, there are things about how he approaches that relationship that can help in easing some of the tension between the two. And again, it's more of a cooperation and collaboration versus me versus you. And a me versus you model is always somebody is trying to win, right? And a cooperation collaboration is just that. It's cooperate. It's me. It's we. It's us. And so, you know, we can put those principles or install some of those principles into our fathers, even if we can't get the mom, you know, over time, hopefully, you know, as he continues to have conversations with her, that it ease some of the tensions between the two parties.
I always like to, man, when I'm overwhelmed with information right now, right? So I do want to take a moment just to applaud you in the Talbert House and the Fatherhood Project for the work that you all are doing. You mentioned success measurements for the people that you all are bringing in. I'm assuming that those are different for each individual.
Of course.
You are awesome. I just want to tell you that when you own it, yes. And I like you saying that because you know, funders oftentimes, and Maurice, you know this. You get grants, you know, they want to dictate what success is. Let me tell you something. If somebody graduates from a parenting class that has never graduated from high school, I've never graduated for anything else. And damn it, that's success for me. And so, you know, I'm not here to tell you what your success measurements are. We're going to do an assessment. We're going to see what your needs are. And that's what we're going to work towards. And if you achieve 5 out of 10 things, that's success, you know? And so, you know, we're not here to say you got to do all 12 of these steps and then you're great. It doesn't work that way. You know, we're going to take baby steps, and here's the reality. They may achieve, you know, 5 out of 10 and then go on hiatus for, you know, 6 months and then come back. That's so what? And come back. And then we can deal with those other 5 things too. You know, we got to let the individuals kind of dictate what that looks like, and not, you know, some grant or a program trying to tell them what it needs to look like. So.
No, and I could appreciate that. I'm curious as to, when you speak to the grants or the programs, what does the accountability look like? Not to the grant or the program, but actually to the father. Like, all right, Mike, you keep coming back. Like, how do we know you serious, Mike? Like, you got to give us something to let us know you serious. What does that look like?
Yeah, it's just, again, it's working the case plan. You know, as we assess them, we're working the case plan. The case plan says, you know, we got to get you employment. We need you to go through the parenting classes. You know, we need to make sure that you are honoring your appointments. You know, and then we start checking the box. You know, if it's somebody who has something going on in the court system, you know, we need to be meeting. We need to, if, you know, you're $20,000 behind on child support, you know, when I reach out to my liaison, I want to hear that you reached out to your worker and explained your situation. I mean, knowledge is the key. You know, oftentimes people think, and I don't know if anybody's on this call that is dealt with contempt of court, but, you know, oftentimes people try to go to court when they have a contempt of court and sit in front of a magistrate and unload their life story to that magistrate. Oftentimes what you get is the magistrate never looks up at the individual. They're looking at a computer. So what they're looking at is your case history. Have you called your worker and said, I just got laid off, or I'm in between jobs, or, you know, I'm actively looking for a job, or I know I haven't made a payment in a month or 2 months, or, you know, I'm able to make partial payments right now, because all of that stuff matters. But if they look at that computer and there's nothing there, and you haven't paid in 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months, they're not really trying to hear it right then and there. Now, that's not to say that that's the father's, you know, fault. It's just a lack of information, right? Because maybe if he knew, if he reached out to his worker and the worker started logging all that stuff, he would have been doing that. So, you know, again, it's those type of things to make sure that they're on top of those type of things, you know, kind of working hand in hand with their case manager. But their case manager is also a linkage to all the other array of services. So employment, you know, the legal service, to co-parenting, to the parenting classes. You know, they're the ones who are going to refer them externally if they need to go outside of Talbert House walls or something. And so the case manager is going to open up a case, and the case manager is also going to be the one who closes the case.
Certainly. So I got a question. I got a couple questions, actually. Number one, how has COVID affected your operations in regards to the Fatherhood Project and some of the other community care programs that are ran? And secondly, you know, with the racial protests and things of that nature, what impact has that had on you personally and professionally?
Good question. So COVID, you know, obviously we all learned a lot about ourselves and continue to learn. It's not over. So we continue to learn a lot about ourselves. But what we did learn is that, you know, virtual platforms does work. And it also allows you to be a little bit more creative and flexible around how you serve clients. You know, prior to COVID, nobody was using these virtual platforms this way.
Hey, I can tell you use it a lot because you got it set up perfect. Your bookcase, your picture on the wall. You like your head's in a perfect spot, man. I can tell. I'm like, oh yeah, he used to these calls. Your shirt, everything. Like you like, okay, look, all right, I got this.
We're gonna talk offline. I got something for you, boy. But what it allows us to do is, you know, you as a professional, sometimes there is a fine line between, you know, working evening hours or working, you know, after hours or on the weekends, or if, you know, somebody wants you to come to a state conference or want, you know, speak to fathers, your funders that's out of town or out of the city want to speak to. all of those walls have closed in because of these virtual platforms. And so we're currently in our second virtual parenting class. The first one was our 51st class. So we've done 51 classes in 20 some odd years. And I think 20 people graduated from that last parenting class. I think 17 is on target to graduate from this class that ends in mid-November. But the other part of that is now we can do more weekend things. We can do more at the hour things. In fact, you know, in September, our utilization for our staff was up. It was the highest it had been in like 3 or 4 years because of these virtual platforms. So we've been able to adjust and adapt. You know, overall as an agency, we're doing a lot of, you know, our mental health services also include telehealth or telecare or virtual platforms. There's many different names for it. And so, you know, we're just adjusting with the times. You know, we are still seeing, we're open. We're still seeing clients in person when needed, but preferably we try to do as much as we can through virtual platforms. As far as equity, diversion, and inclusion goes, I mean, you know, I'm obviously excited that, you know, entities are taking it serious, and I can tell you Talbert House is taking it serious. You know, we have probably 3 or 4 town halls a week through virtual platforms. We have 900 employees. You know, people are bought in. Talbert House purchased Black Lives Matters yard signs based off of the murals that was down by City Hall. And so, you know, a lot of our employees have them in their yards. And that feels good, man. I mean, admittedly, I feel like people with social service hearts understand a little bit more than the for-profit world. I don't know how I would feel if I worked in a for-profit world, because, you know, the thinking is a little different. And I'm not gonna go too deep into that, but, you know, as an agency, it's exciting because I do feel like we are truly bought in here. But there's a lot of work that needs to be done. You know, and it's a lot of education. You know, what I always tell folks is, you know, from my perspective is, you know, don't hoop and holler, don't yell and scream. You know, just inform when you have opportunities to do so. You know, our job is, you know, the sender is just simply to communicate. But, you know, at the same time, we have to be the receiver, which means we have to listen. And so, you know, for me, you know, some people they may listen and may have an open mind. Some people may not. But, you know, at the end of the day, a starting point for all of us is the fact that we can have these conversations, and, you know, hopefully things will continue to change. Yeah. You know, don't be apologetic about, you know, being intentional about your Blackness, because I'm not. Right. But you know, be strategic at the same time. You know, we can't change nobody. So if you innately just a racist, then that's just who you are. You know, and you're gonna be the ones who are gonna try to, you know, say Black Lives Matters is a terrorist act when it's not. You know, right. My life matter, your life matter, your life matter. Right. But you know, those are the people you keep away from you. You know, so.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, JeRod. So my final question, though, you know, and I just want to be a little more frank with you. You know, can you tell me, you know, when you know, Breonna Taylor, you know, George Floyd, you know, Ahmaud Arbery, can you tell me how those have affected you? You know, because we kind of had all that happen this year amid this COVID thing. You know, it's been a lot of. I mean, for me, I've suffered a lot of vicarious trauma, a lot of, you know, just personal trauma, particularly watching that George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery videos.
Yeah, I've cried, I've mourned. I'm unapologetic about that because, you know, my feelings hurt, you know. And you know, anybody know anything about trauma, you know, there's plenty of triggers, and, you know, being a Black male does come with, you know, some unintended trauma, you know, because we're viewed differently. And it's not right. And so, you know, again, what it has done for me is just make me be more intentional about just being proud about who the hell I am. You know what I mean? You know, to be honest with you, there's been times where I've walked down the street and, you know, it's me and a white woman, and I'll overextend myself to make her comfortable about going the long route. I ain't doing that no more. You know what I mean? That's your insecurities, not mine. And so just being, you know, for me, it's, you know, we all need to mourn through this stuff. But we all need to keep the pedal to the metal about who we are. And we here to stay. I mean, this is crazy that, we're talking about this, that we got to have conversations with our kids about what to do when you get pulled over by the police. And, and my daughter asking me all these, crazy questions. I don't want to keep going. I get emotional about it. But, at some point, we got to hold people accountable. And if people don't understand their damn privilege, then just get out of my way. You know what I mean? So I'll stop there because I'm real passionate about this.
No, I appreciate your candor there. And JeRod, really quickly, you're a father. I am not, but I know you're a father, and I know this is, these times have been trying for you, trying to be a father in this world. How have you, personally, mourned through these times?
Man, wow, I wasn't expecting this.
I know you were. I know you were.
So no,
turned into you for a second.
Yeah, man. Honestly, I think it's super difficult, man. I think the biggest thing that I'm struggling with now is my son is where it believes every cop is racist. And that's hard. There's been times where a cop has been behind us and my son is over anxious and that's not a feeling that I want my son to have. And it's difficult explaining what to do to him when he gets pulled over. Like, as Harold said, right? So I think for me, and beyond that, I think my son watched, he's seen these videos, right? With TikTok and with all of these streaming platforms and social media sites, they have access to these things. So sometimes they see it before I have a chance to explain it to him. So I think for me, I've removed myself for the trauma because I don't even have the time. And maybe this is something I need to go back to, but to address it with myself because I'm so concerned about my son. So I think Harold always hits it on the point. He's mentioned it a few times. Instead of hooping and hollering and all of these things, it's more so about what can I do or what will I do to make sure that, one, my child has a better future, or the outlook or the current outlook that my child has will change or will shift, or that he's at least aware of what's going on. But yeah, it's definitely tough. I will say my trauma came it's bad that I almost feel numb. Not numb, but I still feel it, but it's bad that I'm like, this is how it is. But when the Mike Brown situation happened, that really took a lot out of me, and it deepened some wounds. So I just think the biggest way that I'm dealing with it now, man, is really just being real with my child about things, being real with my child about racism, but also trying to make my child understand that everyone isn't like that, but make him accept and embrace. I've been over pursuing, or just I overemphasize his blackness as well, and want to make sure that he's proud of that. So those are just some of the things that I've done. So just to recap, because I feel like I rambled for a moment. My biggest issue has been dealing with my child and how my child deals with police officers and the police, and his the way he views them. And I think the way that I'm combating some of that is I still want my son to be super proud that he's a Black young man, So those are some of the things, both my sons. So that's how I'm doing.
No, I appreciate you sharing that, JeRod. I know you probably weren't expecting that, but I appreciate you sharing that. And Harold, back to you. I wanted to, with the Fatherhood Project, I mean, those are some. I mean, I'm sure you have many Black fathers who come in, and then some of them may struggle with those kind of things. How is that something that you all address? That those questions have been raised? How do I talk to my child about this climate, about race? How do we talk about those things? Is that a topic that you all cover in your program?
It's not a part of a curriculum, but it is definitely something that, we're very mindful of. You have to be. I mean, that's a community issue right now. So, a number of things happen. One is we have these open. So again, go back to trust. Because there's white men in our class,
of course,
across the board. But once that trust is built, that's a great learning tool, because now you get to ask the other side, or you get to ask the other races. So they have those conversations, prior to class, just checking in, seeing how people are doing. And it's not specifically all the time around, race. It could be COVID. It's a lot right now that's going on. And so,
political climate. I mean, there's so much.
Yeah. They have those conversations, the case management sessions. And if a person is at their breaking point, as I said before, we make sure that all of our fathers have access to 281 care. But beyond that, if they need some mental health services, which, you know, I'm excited, man, because what we're starting to see is more Black men access mental health services. You know, we all been wounded. I mean, we just got to be honest with ourselves. Doesn't mean somebody took a belt and, you know, beat us upside the head or a pole or something. That's not that. You know, we've all been disappointed. You know, we all haven't had all of our needs met. And you know, the day and time of just I'm gonna be all right. That ain't working. So we need to be able
to say that again, man. You got to say that again.
Yeah. I'm gonna be all right. That ain't working. It's time to unload that, man. You know, and so you know, guys have those opportunities to be who they are. You know, it's funny. You know, when you think about us as males, you know, we're kind of programmed from day one. Don't cry. Don't, you know, brush it off. You're a man. You're gonna be all right. You know, don't. Well, where the hell do I supposed to be? You know, when do I supposed to hurt? When do I supposed to have feelings? When do I supposed to be able to, you know, say something is wounding me or something like that? And if you can't do that, I don't know that you can fully empathize with your child or children or anybody else in any other relationship. So,
yeah, big time. No, that's great.
So I'm gonna jump in real quick, and Harold, I'm gonna tell you something. So recently, my son, right, his uncle was murdered, right, and it's so funny that you say you speak to the mentality of a Black man, because I was raised on the don't, right. So as I'm talking to my son on dealing with death, right, it was so awkward. It's almost awkward because I'm just it'll be all right, and it's funny. It's not funny, but as I think about it, when I had this conversation with him, I told him, I led our conversation after I told him his uncle died. Later on that night, I went back to him. I said, you know, death is a part of life. And I'm like, what type of conversation am I having with my child? Instead of asking him, and I had to learn to open myself up to my son, right? Tell me your good memories. What's right. wrong? You know, and I think it's so perfect because I don't think, and I consider myself an aware Black man, right? I've had some good people around me, and if I have trouble articulating my feelings or even asking my son how to deal with these things, right, I can only imagine how some other of our people, not just Black men, but men in general, right, are dealing with some of these things. So I truly, and I know Mo does as well, because he's super big on mental health. We truly appreciate you touching on those subjects, because I feel like they're super sensitive to our community, but they're also imperative. So I just want to really, really thank you for hitting on that, because that definitely hit home.
Yeah, I mean, here it is, man. I mean, we all deserve to be the best me. Mm-hmm. The best you. We all deserve that. And nobody else is going to be able to feed that if we can't feed it to ourselves first. And sometimes we just got to get out our own way. You know what I mean? Like, I get it. I mean, trust is hard, but you know, there's nothing wrong with help. You know, again, if we're going to really achieve that level of, you know, intimacy with who we are, our own masculinity, our own self, and if the prize is our kids, and if it's, you know, really to model for our kids, and if that's what the motivation needs to be for our kids, don't we want to model all that for them? Don't we want them to see what it is? Don't we want to see them in our vulnerable moments along with, you know, our strongest moments? Because that's all the things that go into the toolbox, right? Right. I mean, here it is in a nutshell. When I turned 15, I became a little rebellious, and I guarantee everybody on this call had that moment in their life where they, you know, got a little rebellious. My point to that is the things that brought me back to my center. And when I say bring me back to my center, whether that's 15, 16, whether that's 30, take some people longer than that. Maybe they may not get into their 40, but what's always going to bring them back to their center is life lessons. And what else was in that toolbox they probably should have accessed a little bit sooner. And so, you know, that's what it comes down to. I mean, you know, we can't put those things in the toolbox, or, you know, if we want to look at the analogy of a cup, we can't put the positive stuff in the cup if we haven't nurtured ourselves first.
No, that's big time. And I want to shout out to Mental Health Recovery Board, because I know that you all receive funding through them. And I'm also a board member for the Recovery Center for Hamilton County, which does those like classes and things. So, you know, shout out to the Mental Health Board. You know, mental health is vitally important. And JeRod, you're right, man. I'm big on it. I mean, I think everyone should be big on it. Just like we go to doctor for physical ailments. We need to definitely talk to people about our mental health as well. So yeah, and so there's a question that came in on Facebook. My boy Dennis Cummins, shout out to Dennis Cummins. He wanted his question, simple question, man. How can one help? How can one help? How can we help? If someone's watching this today, they said, "Wow, I want to support the Fatherhood Project." How can one support the Fatherhood Project?
Well, I mean, they can help by attending the classes. They can help by, reaching out to me. One thing we don't have a very formal structure for is mentoring. That may be the next evolution of the program. I think, being present at the class, because again, the learning is not the facilitator. The learning is everybody's in that class story, right? What worked for them, what didn't work for them, because at the end of the day, and I know it's cliches, I mean, there's no menu to parenting. So, what it comes down to is, life lessons and what you hear and how you mold that into your relationship with your child or children. Outside of the program, how we can help is just simply asking people how they doing, just speaking and being attentive. I mean, the worst thing we could do is deny someone their feelings. And what I mean by that is, that goes to our relationship with our child or children, or that goes to, our relationships as a friend. Meaning, Maurice, if Maurice is having a moment and Maurice is telling me something, innately, oftentimes what we do is say, yeah, I remember that happened to me, and start talking over. And guess what? The conversation is shifted. And at one moment that Maurice was vulnerable, he didn't get his need met. And so he may never come back to me with that. And I might have been the only person he trusted, but I just denied him that. So now you got a wounded individual who's going to remain wounded. And so my point to that is sometimes it's just best to listen more than talk. And so that's another way, just a more universal, organic way that we can help, our brothers. So.
Certainly. Now, as far as like, financial, right? Say I'm a person, I say, you know what, this is a noble project. I got some money I want to donate. How do I do that? How do I go about that?
So we have a development department here at Talbert House. And so our number here is 513-751-7747. And, you can talk to development about giving a donation. What I can tell you is that the money we raised so last year, in fiscal year 20, we're in 21 now. So prior to the pandemic, we raised about $325,000 for the Fatherhood Project.
That's amazing.
This year, we're not going to meet that threshold, obviously, because of COVID, and we couldn't have our event in person. You did get the link to the video, though, right?
Yes. So
if you can share that with your viewers. My point to that is, your dollars don't go in my pockets. It goes towards programming, and so the more the merrier. Like I said, it takes on average about $1,000 to serve a father. What's also included in that is, let's say he needs work boots. Let's say he needs, work clothes. Let's say, for the first 2 months, he needs some bus passes to get back and forth to work. All that stuff he's privy to that for free. But, obviously that is still a cost. And, we've been lucky here more recently through, grants and donations to, be able to offset those costs and make sure that we can get the fathers, what they need. So, I would say just reach out to our development department and, they can set that up for you.
Certainly. Thank you. JeRod?
Man, bravo. I want to close out with this. Harold, would you mind telling us how someone can become a part of the Fatherhood Project? If I'm looking to be a participant, what do I need to do?
Simply just call 513-751-7747. Telling you want to be in the Fatherhood Project. I mean, it's really that easy. What I'll tell you is, our location, everything we do, we try to do strategic. So we're located at 4531 Reading Road. You can walk in too. 4531 Reading Road. That's right across the street from the Thornton's gas station, Tennessee.
Shout out to Paddock Hills.
Paddock Hills. There you go. When I say directly across the street from Thornton's, directly across the street. We're on the second floor. Telling you want to get in the Fatherhood Project, or like I said, call the number, schedule an appointment. Whether you schedule an appointment or walk in, we don't care. We're just happy you're there. We're going to make sure you get what you need.
So we thank you for that, Harold. Also, you mentioned you want to talk a little bit about the care product, 281 Care. Do you have anything else that you want to add about care?
That hopefully the brothers on the call will use that as a resource. Maurice, I can get you some stuff that you can like post later. Marketing materials about 281 Care. So like I said, we took 17,000 calls last year. Of those 17,000 calls, only about 1,200 of those calls were from African American males. So let's do the math on that. Yeah, less than 7%. I'm sorry. So 7%. And I know the need is much greater than 7% in our community. So, again, 281 Care is an avenue, a non-judgmental avenue. Of those 17,000 calls, about 400 of them were actual suicide-related calls. The majority of our calls are, information and referral, and also just, a listening ear. We have some regular callers. When I used to be located at that building, I used to walk in the building about 7:30, like clockwork. This one woman would always call at 7:30, and our staff would always pick up and give her entire 45 minutes that she needed to get her day started. Because that was a part of her routine. That's what she needed, right? And so, that's what they're there to do. They're there to be counselors. They're there to listen and support you in any way possible. So, again, 281 Care. Hopefully we can get some marketing materials to you, Maurice, that you can post and share with the community.
Yep. So, man, really, hold on, JeRod, 1 second, one question. I got one other question. A gentleman just came in. My good boy Avan, what's up, brother? He asked, "Is this just for single fathers?"
No, all fathers. We all need it. We all need it. And if we don't need it, because if we feel like we're the best father in the world, there is nothing like some support from your other brothers, your other fathers. You think about like the Inquirer. I think they got like the Mom's magazine that's a part of the Inquirer. I ain't seen nothing about a father's magazine. We need support too. You know what I mean? We need to gather in mass numbers. Come on now. So I gave you the long answer, but no.
Okay, great. Thank you, brother. Thank you. Mr. Lindsay.
Right. Yeah, no, Harold, man, Mr. Howard, this has been a phenomenal session, man.
Harold, brother, come on now.
Yeah, nah, man. I had to Mr. Howard you based off of all that knowledge you just dropped on us, man. You out here looking like Furious Styles right now. So I just wanted to let you know we appreciate you, man, for sure. Harold, man, really, this has been a great beneficial session, man. When Mo and I started the discussion, we wanted to bring resources to people who wouldn't ordinarily have access to people such as yourself, and everything that you have given us is everything that we could ask for. So I just want to say thank you. If you have any last words that you want to say, feel free before we close it out.
Yeah. I just want to thank both of you. I think, we have to continue to have these type of platforms. This is a new day. And, if we're going to take back our communities, this is how it happens organically with, these three Black gentlemen that I can see on the screen right here. We can't keep relying on everybody else to solve our problems. And we all play a part, whether you know it or not. We got to continue to be a part of the solution. There's enough problems. We need more solutions. That's all I have, brother.
Yeah. And really quickly, I think this is a great opportunity, JeRod. I'm actually let you explain. How do we start a discussion? I don't know that we had really quickly, man. I know we got a few minutes left. How do we start the discussion, man? What happened?
So you remember they had what they called it, club shells, when COVID was at its peak in Cincinnati, where it looks like it's headed back again, but nevertheless, they had club shells, and I made a post on Facebook, which you're not currently on, Harold, but I made a post.
Yeah, Carol, not currently on.
I made a post just asking, just inquiring, why are we there? What was the requirement? What made us want to go out and just disregard the restrictions and things of that nature? So Mo commented, we commented, and then we actually talked about some of the mentality of some of our people in regards to, I'm living life like this at risk every day. So this really doesn't mean nothing. And I think sometimes we don't account for other people's mentality, right? And from there, Mo said, let's go, let's have this conversation, let's broaden our audience. And from there, we just been bringing resources and people to the masses on a weekly basis or bi-weekly.
Yeah. And that's what it's about. I mean, again, I think, and I know we're running short on time. It's just ironic to me, and I'll leave it at this, that, we made such a fuss about that. And now we're at a point where we can't get mass bodies of individuals not to adhere to, you know, some of the CDC guidelines. But I digress. I won't say anything else.
No, bigger body. No. That's a whole nother conversation. Don't. So I'm gonna just leave that alone because we'll start going for another hour. Yeah. That's very interesting that you said that.
Yeah. So,
no,
you know,
thanks for coming on, Harold. We appreciate you, man.
Thank you, my brother. Y'all have a good weekend, man.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you to the viewers. Thank you all for tuning in. We got a special treat coming up. JeRod and I are going to get together and be looking out in the next couple of weeks. I think JeRod is taking a couple of weeks. You're going to be out, right?
Yeah, man. Going on a couple trips, man. So I'll definitely be on the hiatus for sure.
Yeah, but we'll be coming back to you in November. Hey, thank you all for the discussion. I'll be able to share this with you as well, Harold, if you want to, you know, share with your marketing folks. Yeah, your marketing folks at Talbert House want to share it as well. So I'll make sure you get this. But you know, hey, thank you all. Alandis, I see you. Mr. Alandis wanted to give you a shout out. I know you spoke about
Coach Simmons.
yeah. So
I said, what's up?
Okay, yeah, she can hear you. So thank you all for the discussion. Thank you for joining us. You all have a great evening. Have a great weekend. Catch us soon.
Till next time.
Next time.
All right, brother.